you for joining us today for the New Beginnings with a New Approach webinar. Today's presenter is going to be Abby Eastman, and at this time I'd like to introduce Abby.
All right, hi everybody, welcome to New Beginnings with a New Approach. So it's the new year, and I'm sure you guys all have a lot of clients with New Year's resolutions and things that they're focusing on, but we also still have a lot of clients that we've been working with who are carrying over to the new year. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about taking a different approach with our clients, new or old. And I started using this approach with my clients about 3 years ago, and it just is making a huge difference all over with their programs, no matter if their goal is pain reduction or weight loss or getting toned, quote unquote. So hopefully you guys will find some information today that you can incorporate into your client's routine and help them with this new approach and get them started onto their goals in a little bit of a different way, kind of a start over and a fresh take on fitness. So we'll have a little introduction, and we'll look at how we assess our clients' movement patterns, exercise and activity routines that contribute to chronic pain. And if you've been training for a while, you're probably seeing more and more clients that have some sort of chronic pain, or that pain that creeps up. They'll say something along the lines of, oh, if I do that, sometimes my lower back will start to hurt, or I avoid X because my neck will start to hurt. So kind of looking at those patterns that contribute to that kind of pain. We'll look at teaching clients correct muscle recruitment techniques to use during and after their workout, because as we all know, it's great to work out for 1 to 2 hours a week with your trainer, but they need to carry this over into their day-to-day to really see and feel the results. And I find that that's the hardest thing to portray with clients, especially lately. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll look at some exercise prescriptions or programs that we'll give to clients, and then share any alternative approaches you guys may have started to use with your clients that differ from, a regular fitness assessment and starting program with your client. And my name is Abby. I've been working with WIT since about 2008. I have my master's and bachelor's in exercise science, and I currently work as a personal trainer, and all of these things that we're going to talk about today I'm using with clients. And I love fitness and teaching people how to do this themselves. That's my biggest goal when I work with someone, is getting them to feel better and know how they can make themselves feel better when they leave their time with me. So hopefully you guys feel the same way, because I think most trainers do. They like to work with people and share their love for feeling good and being able to move well. So the first thing we're going to talk about is looking at what our traditional fitness assessment includes. So usually a client comes to see us, their first session, we'll probably have them do a PARQ and a health history form. You may or may not do some sort of nutritional assessment to find out about their diet. And I say diet as in what they eat on a day-to-day basis, not necessarily like going on a diet. And you may also ask them about their current exercise program, test their muscular strength and endurance. Maybe you do the push-up test, or have them do a couple weight training exercises just to see where they're at. Some people include the sit and reach test, depending on if their facility has a sit and reach, or if they have an area they can do that. Some sort of cardiovascular assessment, maybe a 3-minute step test, or the walk or run test on the treadmill. And then you might do a BMI or body fat test. And I think all of these things are great, and they should be included. It helps give us a picture about our client, especially that health history and what they're currently doing. But if you look over to the right, the wellness wheel, the self-wellness wheel over here, what about all this stuff? These are lots of factors that impact our clients' day-to-day health, wellness, fitness, pain, weight loss goals. So we've got to start looking a little bit deeper. And of course, that's within our scope of practice. We'll look at those things. But it's also knowing when do I need to bring in a dietitian that I work with and I can comfortably, refer my clients to them? When do I need to take on working closely with a psychologist or psychiatrist, counselor who can help my client with some of their emotional things they have going on that contribute to their fitness? Because all of these things contribute to the results that our clients will see and feel, they go together with what we're working on for them, but so often we're leaving all these other things out. So that's what we're going to kind of look at today, is some other parts of our physical fitness program that kind of cross over with these other items during our day. So emotional, like we said, if someone's emotionally having issues in other areas of their life, that can affect their self-talk, their self-efficacy, how successful they feel like they're going to be coming to the gym and working on fitness. If I don't feel like I'm going to be successful and I have all this negative self-talk, I might quit before I can even get to a point where I can do some push-ups or walk on the treadmill or get that bench press down. So that's kind of how these other things go into play here, and we need to kind of start connecting them a little bit more. When you look at also emotional, mental, and spiritual, and even into the social and occupational, how much stress is a client feeling, and how's that stress affecting their sleep? Because we know if we're not sleeping well and we have a lot of stress, we're releasing more cortisol. Well, it's going to be really hard to lose weight, even if I'm working out and I'm eating well. But if I'm so stressed, I've already got this cortisol hormone circulating, how am I going to get to my weight goal? So these things affect what we do with our clients, and so it's time to start digging a little bit deeper and getting a kind of a bigger, full wellness picture of our clients. You know, not just looking at how many push-ups they do in their assessment, but how's their job going? What do they do in their job? Do they sit all day? Do they, are they running up and down aisles picking up boxes so they're moving a lot? Things like that. We talked a little bit, these are all the other what abouts. What about stress? How are they stressed? Where are they stressed? Are they sleeping? How much time does your client spend sitting? And this is a really, really big one, and we're going to talk more about it. But I want you to think about the clients that you have right now. And think about the clients that you know spend a lot of time sitting. How much time do you actually think they spend during the day sitting at a desk? And let's just make up a random example of somebody here, but I can think of several clients whose day is like this. They wake up in the morning, they get ready to go to work, and they spend 45 minutes in the car sitting. They get to work, they pull up to their cubicle, and they sit. They don't get up unless they have to get something out of the staff room or go to the printer. And they'll sit until lunch, where they'll get up and go sit down for lunch. They'll come back, sit at their desk until 5 or 6 o'clock, and leave to go to the gym, where they'll spend 45 minutes in the car sitting to get to the gym, and then they probably will sit on the bicycle for 45 minutes to exercise, and maybe sit down on the machines to do a few of the circuit, exercise routines. That's a whole day of sitting. And a lot's happening, well, a lot's not happening when we're sitting, right? Our glute muscles are stretching, our back muscles are stretching, and we're not engaged. Our muscles aren't even working for us. And this in itself can create a lot of pain. So assessing the amount of sitting your client does during a day is a huge question to start asking. Also talking to clients about things like how much they eat out, how much they cook for themselves. Because this person who was sitting a lot, after they left the gym, maybe they went and they picked up food, takeaway food, and went home and sat down and ate it. Smoking habits. Talking to clients about how much alcohol they drink. So we know 1 to 2 drinks is okay, but excessive alcohol use is not and can really hold us back from our goals. Talking to them about their intake or their diet. And also on intake and diet, what other diets they've tried and have they been successful or unsuccessful and why, keeping that conversation going. Daily activity. So if we're talking about our sitting client over here, they're not getting any daily activity. And they may have described themselves as moderately active, but really we know that they're not active if they spent that much time sitting throughout the day. So getting that bigger picture, making those connections. Patterns and repetitive patterns that they might have. So you've got the client who might be sitting, but you've got another client who might work in a warehouse or be turning and grabbing a box and turning and putting it in another space repeatedly throughout the day. Patterns of looking down or at a computer or at several screens. Talking to clients if they have kids, what their day-to-day is like with kids. Their work patterns. Other habits like sleep habits and activity habits. So when they do go out and do activity or fitness, what do they do? Do they do the same class every day or same class every week? Do they walk the same path? Do they wear the same shoes they've worn for the last 5 years? And then what accountability they have and support. So making sure clients have somebody they can reach out to that's either on the same path that they are or that they have support at home for eating well and getting in their exercise. And we know that as trainers, we're the accountability for our clients and we're a big support, but we also know that we're not the only ones. So making sure they have friends and family that are supporting them on that journey, and it might even be hooking them up with a buddy to get them on that place as well. And how much time they're willing to commit to keeping the New Year's resolutions they've made, and really driving home that the time you spend with me is great, this 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week, but this is a day-to-day homework assignment that you have to work on to see and feel results. How many past attempts have they made at losing weight or pain reduction or getting stronger, whatever it might be, fitness goal-wise, and how consistent they are. I have a lot of people tell me, how consistent they are. They work out every week, and I don't know why I'm not seeing results. I'm very, I'm always at the gym. Okay, how many times did you work out last week? Well, last week I didn't make it. What about the week before? Well, I was away for work. Well, what about the week before that? I think I went once because I made that new class. What about the week before? Well, I'm just not sure. I think work was busy at the beginning of the month. So have they really been consistent with their workout routine? No. So of course they're not going to be seeing or feeling results that way. Oops. So today we're going to discuss that these all go along with the previous slide there. A postural assessment with our clients, how their foot strikes the floor when they move, other daily patterns and habits that lead to pain, strain, and drain, and that's in your foot strike and postural assessment. Workouts that don't help, and create a workout plan that does help. And again, driving home to clients that they have to continue on their own and really empowering them to do that. So first let's look at posture assessment. And as we're looking at the posture assessment, kind of think to yourself real quick, which guy in this lineup here looks most like the people you see walking around today? And my eyes go straight for the person in the middle, okay? And we don't have to worry about all the big words that describe posture. We can look at this guy and know already his back is really stretched out, his neck is jutting forward. This is kind of a combination, these guys together. And we can probably tell that he sits a lot during the day or looks at a phone a lot during the day. And these aren't just adults that have posture like this. We have a lot of teenagers walking around that look like this as well. So just in your beginning, before you even do this with a client, the next time you're at the gym or at work, take a look around the room and just watch people for a little while and look at their posture and see if you can categorize them in one of these sections. It's really important because it gives us a lot of clues about how they might be feeling. And you'd infer from this guy right here that he probably has some sort of shoulder pain, right, because his shoulder's not being appropriately held in its anatomical position. This big curve here is not supposed to go that way. It's supposed to go the other way. And there's a lot of strain into his back muscles to just hold them there. So we want to get people to start walking around having this good posture where our shoulders are above our hips and they're pulled back. And a lot of times when I shared this exact slide and exact picture with clients and we put them in this position, the first words that come out of their mouth are, "But it feels like I'm sticking my chest out." Well, really they're not. They're just so used to being here that coming to here, number one, it feels hard to contract these back muscles and turn them on. but it also feels like a huge stretch for their chest muscles. So what causes us to stand like this? And take a look at yourself right now, how you're sitting in your chair looking at this screen. Are you sitting up tall with their shoulders back and down, shoulders over hips? Are you leaning forward into the computer? Are you laying on the floor? Are you hunched up in bed? So depending on how you sit all the time can really affect how your posture looks when you're standing up. So this person we'd infer could have low back pain. He could have some kind of glute/hip pain from his poor posture. Neck pain, right? There's a lot of strain on the neck muscles there to hold up our head, which we know weighs somewhere around 8 pounds. And these are little long muscles, so this is a lot of strain on them. Shoulder pain, because the shoulders are arched and rounded forward, right? So we're pulling the shoulder essentially out of its socket. And they were in this big stretched out position. And if you sit a lot during the day, your glute muscles are in a stretched out position. So now they're not even strengthened up. And there's a big article circulating around called text neck. You could think, I think this forward head is text neck at its greatest. We're always looking down. So as a client walks in, this is one of the first new beginnings, fresh start you can give them, and look at their posture. How do they look when they walk in, and kind of compare them to this slide right here. And here's a look just with the spine. It's the same slide basically, but it shows you a little bit more when you come into the hip area, what's going on and putting us in these positions. So here's a woman sitting on a box, which I know you all regularly do, right? You just sit up nice and tall on a box. Shoulders over your hips, there's a little bit of curve in the spine. I would have showed this picture with a little bit more, right? Because we know that little curve is supposed to be there. But the shoulders aren't arching and rounding forward, and the neck's not looking down. We're looking straight ahead. And the feet should be comfortably on the floor. Here's a great picture looking at the neck and the arch that's coming from that text neck posture. That's a tongue twister. All right, so these are some things to think about. And when you're talking to your client, asking him how much sitting they're doing, we want to be talking to them about what the ramifications are of sitting so often and sitting with poor form and the strain that it puts on your muscles, and then it starts to put on your joints. The next part of that one is going to be our sleep patterns. And you can think of sleep, hopefully our clients are getting enough sleep, but when they are sleeping, what position they're in. Because sleep, I describe it to my clients as like an opportunity to reset yourself in your perfect natural anatomical position and line everything back up. Or it's the opposite opportunity where you can sleep in this big permanent stretched position and put strain on your body all over again. So the picture on the left looks more specifically at the neck. Obviously this guy's neck is up too high, too low. A more normal position is going to put a little, he's laying on his back, going to put a little curve in the cervical spine. Perfect. If you're sleeping on your side, you can keep that nice position in the neck too, but what we worry about when people sleep on their sides is them ending up looking up like this second guy over here where you're stretched out. So now I've got a nice hip stretch going on. My lower back's out of alignment. Now you might wake up with some knee pain. Look at this shoulder under here. It's in a big shoulder stretch for however long you're in that position. So think of sleep just lengthening and weakening muscles and throwing us out of alignment if we're sleeping in some poor positions. So trying to get people to sleep on their back, shoulders pressing into the mattress, head and neck in alignment, hips are nice and aligned, and it's more like our natural anatomical position than any of these crazy sleep habits. And I would say you'll probably get the most slack from your clients when you talk to them about their sleep position. And it'll likely go, but I can't fall asleep like that. So part of it is retraining ourselves to sleep in a less stressful position. So what can we do differently to correct our posture? First, at work, talking to clients about standing up and taking walking breaks. This is super important. Sitting all day, that glute muscle is in a stretched position. When we stretch a muscle, what happens? It relaxes. When it relaxes, and then we go to stand up, when we need our glute muscle to fire, because that's what it does, it helps us come from a sitting to standing position, it's been sleeping for hours while it's been sitting. It's not going to fire, and if it doesn't fire, then all the muscles surrounding the knee, the little long muscles in our back, have to do the work that our glute muscle, which is our big, strong muscle, is supposed to do to help us stand up, and that creates even more strain from just being in that seated, stretched out position. So work breaks are super important. While you're sitting, like in the car or at work, we can be encouraging our clients to squeeze their butt. And this is a topic, when I first started talking with clients about squeezing their butt, they looked at me like I had 3 heads. They didn't want to talk to me about squeezing their butt. That was like over the line. But really, we need to be squeezing our glutes. Squeezing our glutes should not just happen when we're doing squats. They should be happening throughout the day when we're sitting, when we're going from sitting to standing, and when we're working with clients on these squat type motions, especially in yoga. We need to activate those glutes. We need to use them to get us from that sit to stand position. But if you can't get up and stand up and walk around while you're sitting, squeezing your butt is important. And I can infer that most of you right now are squeezing your butt, seeing what that actually feels like, and that's great. At home, when we're sitting down to watch TV, how many people like curl up on the couch and don't even think about their posture or how they're sitting? So we want to encourage clients to have a good sitting position when they're at home, trying to lay more flat or at an angle rather than sitting on the couch, all scrunched up or hips off to one side, hugging a pillow or rolling the shoulders in. And then talking to them about their sleeping posture and their pillow choices is also really important. When we talk to them about their activity, keeping good posture throughout the day. So you talk to them about keeping the shoulders back and down, activating your lat muscles and your rhomboids, keeping your shoulders over your hips. And yes, it might feel like you're sticking your chest out a little bit, but it shouldn't be just when we're standing. It should be when you're sitting and driving in the car. When they're working on the phone or the computer, we want to bring the phone up to eye level rather than looking down at the computer or down at our phone. And that's really key. As you start to watch people and look for these things, notice how many people today you see looking down and how long they're looking down. We always want to encourage our clients to stand up to move around and not sit. So that client we talked about in the beginning where they're commuting to work, sitting at work, commuting home, sitting on the bike, or maybe doing chair yoga or things like that. We want to encourage people to stand up to move around. They have to use more muscle, they'll burn more calories, but also it's putting them back in that natural anatomical position where you make those muscles work and do the job they were meant to do, and it will help them reduce pain. And then we're looking at our exercise programming. So our exercise programming for our posture correction people is going to focus on strengthening the back muscles. Okay, so think about strengthening the back muscles and stretching the chest muscles or the pec muscles. So what exercises are you going to prescribe for clients to strengthen their back muscles? So you've got things like lat pull downs, rows. You can do both of those with tubing or with cables. I love cables because it gets people standing. You can use rows, like start the lawnmower type of row with your dumbbells. Bent over rows are awesome too because they have to engage their butt to hold themselves there. The Superman exercise where you're on all fours, or sometimes called quadruped, and you reach the opposite arm of whatever leg you're reaching out and back. But trying to get clients to clue in on what it feels like to strengthen the back muscles and contract the back muscles. And yes, you are putting tension on them and squeezing them and getting them to work rather than it feel like straining. So those are some things to kind of clue into, and I really encourage you guys before you start talking with clients about this to try it on your own and think about what cues you can give clients to get them to feel that feeling. And we're going to talk more about the strength training exercises coming up. We want to avoid exercises with these clients where they're sitting down. Okay, they've sat enough during the day, and maybe even if you have a client who doesn't do that much sitting, or they tell you they don't do that much sitting, they probably do, and they can really benefit from standing up and moving around during their exercises. We also want to avoid forward folding stretches with our clients. And this is really big because most clients, now that you've got them strengthening their back muscles, strengthening their glute muscles with squats, deadlifts, where they're squeezing their butt, you're having them clue into getting those butt muscles, calling them to do some work, they're going to feel tight in their lower back. They're going to feel a little tight in their butt. They're going to feel tight between their shoulder blades. And the first thing they're going to want to do to release that tightness is get back into the position they're always in, which would be some sort of a forward fold or a knee hug to stretch those muscles back out. But if I've just told those muscles to stretch back out and relax, you've just negated all the hard work you've put into pulling them back into their natural anatomical position and place. So, and if you may have heard there, I was moving around. I was showing somebody how to pull their shoulders back and down and stay in that position. So it's going to feel a little bit hard. You're going to tense those muscles up, but they need to be strong. We don't need them to be so stretched out. And if you can put your shoulder back where it's supposed to be, you can put your back where it's supposed to be, you can decrease your pain and most of the time get rid of it. So you're helping your client bring to light what good posture looks like. Now you have to help them and show them what it feels like. If you've got someone who's had a really long portion of time where they've had poor posture, it's not going to come back automatically. It's going to be a slow process getting them back in moving into that direction. And we want to teach them how to engage the correct muscles and relax the correct muscles. And you may remember this term, reciprocal inhibition, and that's the principle where one muscle contracts to stabilize the joint so the opposite muscle or the opposite mover can relax and stretch. And that's really what we're trying to do in all of our exercises, but our focus is going to be strengthening those back muscles to let the front body, the chest muscles, torso, abdominal muscles, hip flexors, quadriceps relax and let them stretch out, because every time we sit, those are the ones that are tightening up and pulling us forward. So strengthen the back of the body, stretch the front of the body. And that's essentially your homework plan with your client. This is our focus. So when you leave here today, I need you to work on that every single day. Shoulders back and down. I say pinch your shoulder blades together like there's a $100 bill back there. Making sure they're stretching out through their chest, their quadriceps, they're standing up, they're walking around, they're squeezing their butt. So that's a big daily practice for those posture correction clients. And most clients are leaning towards this, whether they're like have really poor posture or they're kind of just in the beginning stages because of things like cell phones and computers. They're putting us in that position automatically. All right, so your specific prescription, you're going to work clients with lat pull downs, rows, Supermans, back extensions, and let's talk about back extensions for a minute. So back extensions, new client, I would have them laying on the floor on their stomach, and they're going to try to raise their chest, head, and neck up off the mat, right? Their feet may or may not come along for the ride. And usually when you have clients do this exercise, it's the first thing they say, oh, that hurts my back. Well, are they squeezing their butt? Because that's the action of your glute muscles, is to help assist with that exercise. But remember, we spent most of the day sitting down. That muscle's relaxed. It's probably not firing. So if they're squeezing their butt and using those assister muscles, they shouldn't feel that tension or spasm type feeling in their back. Deadlift position, awesome for all of this, but when we do our deadlift, we need to make sure we're keeping our heart forward, chest out, shoulders back and down. And on the way up, we've got to squeeze our butt. If we're not squeezing our butt, then the lower back muscles, or those skinny little long muscles that run along our spine, they're doing all the work. And that's too much weight for them. Deadlifts, I would always be teaching clients to do deadlifts without any weight. Get them to do perfect form before you even add any weight to that. If they're squeezing and engaging their glutes and they've never done that before, That's going to be a perfect way to start. You don't even want them to start with any weight. Next one, plank. So planking is great, knees or toes. I would always start with someone on their knees and make sure their chest and shoulders are staying in alignment and we're not pressing out of the shoulders, taking the shoulder out of the shoulder joint. But accompanying engaging those core muscles, you've got to squeeze your glutes because your glutes are a supporter for the lower back muscles. So butt squeezes here goes on as well. Another way to treat glute recruitment with our clients is to have them do a bridge. So the bridge is where you're laying on your back, knees are bent on the floor, and you're lifting your hips up towards the sky. Asking clients to do that, I should have included a picture, I'm sorry. Asking clients to do that exercise, don't tell them where to squeeze or what to feel. Just have them do 10 or 12 and ask them, where'd you feel that? Most people will say their hamstrings, but we know they should be feeling mainly their butt using to lift their butt up. So that's exactly what they're doing. So got to get them to squeeze their butt to lift their hips. And I'm sure you guys can fill in a ton of other variations of all these exercises that really recruit the back muscles while stretching the front of the body. And every exercise you have a client perform should encourage good posture. So don't ever be afraid to intervene with somebody during an exercise and start over or reset and be giving them some new cues. Even your old clients you've been working with for a while, having them clue into these little changes will really make a big difference. So things that pain, strain, and drain, different contributors in this aspect, would be the sitting and the forward folding, or doing something like a lat pull down or a row or a deadlift, and then after you do the exercise, going straight into a forward folding stretch and holding that. You've just taken away all that hard work you've done to correct some postural problems that you have going on. So you want to avoid the sitting, avoid the forward fold, stretching. We've got our first poll question.
All right, everybody. So our first poll question today is, it is important to access client sleep positions to see if it is contributing to pain or postural issues. True or false? And we'll give everybody a few minutes to answer. There was a quick question about the previous slide from BJ Chambers. What should you do for those people about the neck people, where their neck goes forward with their head, almost like the cell phone?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, wait, should I answer it now or wait till after our poll question is over?
No, you can answer. They're still answering, so.
Okay, so with the neck, all the exercises we just talked about are really important, and that helps strengthen that area too. So, for instance, if you're having someone do a bent over row, making sure that they're not looking down, right? They're gonna, and I just looked down when I did that, but you want to pull the head and neck into alignment. So anytime you're in your position, you're keeping that head stacked over the neck, and you should see that little backward C curve in someone's neck in any exercise position you're putting them in. The other thing you can do to get them to feel what it feels like to have their neck in a good alignment is have them stand against the wall. So your hips and shoulders would be up against the wall, and they might need to stand a little bit away from the wall, 6 inches or so. So shoulder, shoulder, hip, hip into the wall, and then that back of the head area, like if you were wearing a ponytail, where your ponytail would be, you're going to have them gently press that part of the head and neck head into the wall, and it's going to fire up those muscles. When you're doing the back extension, they're going to feel it there, especially if they're having a lot of that text neck, holding their head in alignment. So that head's going to stay right over the shoulders as they lift up. Everything's lifting as a unit. That's going to help strengthen that area. If the client is more not as mobile and you're doing a lot of mat work with them, just having them lay on the mat, you could put a little piece of foam under their head and just have them contract those neck muscles, push that ponytail area of the head into the foam, and then release, press, and release. And now I'd have them push like 50 to 75% of the amount they feel like they could contract and push, because we don't want them like jamming their head against the wall or into the mat and getting a headache. We want to activate those muscles but not overdo it.
Fantastic. All right, so we have 98% believe that that is true and 2% believe that it is false. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you.
All right, yeah, it's definitely true. We've got to look at someone's sleep position to assess their posture and to assess any pain or aches and pains they have that are going on that they're trying to get rid of. That's a 6 to 8 hour period of time you could be resting and sleeping in a stretched out position and putting pain and stress into your joints. And this is one thing, guys, where I get down on the mat and I show people, like, okay, look at my shoulders. If I'm curled up in a ball sleeping, look at how poor my posture is right here. Look at how stretched out those muscles are. So don't be afraid to, get in there and show people how it looks, because it sounds like it would be okay, right? Oh, I sleep on my side. It's fine. Well, no, let's look at it. It's not fine. Show me how you sleep. So actually trying it out with your client is important. All right, the next thing we'll look at is your foot strike. And foot strike, so important. Somewhere along the way, it got left out of a personal trainer's list of things to do, and we're going to bring it on back. So we've got two people running here, and the first guy who's got a blue foot, you can see as he's landing, his heel is coming down first. Guy number 2, as he's landing, that forefoot is coming down first. And so as you look at how they're landing, and you can kind of look at their back and their posture here too, which do you think is going to be better, less impact for the joints on the body? It's going to be guy number 2, right? As he lands, your first line of impact defense is the arch in your foot. I think, let's see. Okay, so here's your foot. There's the arch. Now this person's landing into their forefoot already, but here's your arch. And all these little bones in our feet, they move around. They're like built-in shock absorbers. They're supposed to move around. That's what they do. They take the impact. They're the first line of impact for our body. Now take a look at our heel bone. It's one big, thick bone. So let's go back to our guys over here. If I'm landing into my forefoot, the first shock is taken out from that arch. And think like an arch of a bridge, right? An arch of a bridge is made for strength. So is the arch of our foot. And I know some people are thinking, well, I have flat feet. What about that? We'll talk about that. Okay? So I land in my forefoot. Look at this. Look how bent his knee is. Second natural shock absorber that your body has. Bent knee, less impact going up into my hips. Look how perfect. His shoulders are above his hips. His head and neck are in alignment. Guy number 1, he's landing in that big bone of the heel. And he's landing with a virtually straight leg. And some people, as you go out and watch people walk today, some people don't land with any bend. And so this guy's got a little bend, but straight leg, so there's no shock being taken out with the bent knee area here. All that impact coming into the foot goes to the knee, goes to the hip, lower back, poor posture causing maybe some pain up here in the shoulders, upper back, and my head is jutting forward. So you can see having a foot strike that's more neutral, and I say into the toes, but that's kind of a little misguided. It shouldn't be into your toes. It's more that forefoot into the pads of your feet. So we want to be starting to think that way. So as a client comes in, the first thing I'm going to watch them do is walk. And I tell them, I'm going to watch you walk. Here's another great picture. So here, guy number 1, look how nice bent knee. He's landing forefoot. Okay? Now, this takes a lot more strength to do because, look, he has to lift his leg up. Guy number 2, he just has to swing his hip forward. And look how he's going to land right in that heel, straight leg, impact coming all the way up. Most people are walking around just like this. I was at a theme park a couple weeks ago, and for a while I stopped and just watched people walk around, and people were all landing like this guy. That's a lot of impact. Doesn't matter if you're running, just walking around a theme park all day, landing like this. That's a lot of impact for your body to take. Okay? Here's another little version of this. This would be a great one to share with your client. So here's your heel strike. Something also to think about if you're heel striking, here's your calf muscle, right? You can picture it. Oh, it's stretched out when I land that way, right? Point your toe towards your nose. What happens? Calves stretch. If I have a mid-strike or a forefoot strike, my calf muscle is engaging. More protection for the body. So something to think about with the foot strike pattern, and as you watch a client foot strike, coming down, looking at a foot wearing a shoe. And I want you to think about the shoes that you might have at home. Most sneakers that people buy have a big sort of chunky heel thing going on. And what's in that chunky heel thing? Some sort of air pocket or memory foam cushion, whatever the running company has put there. And why did they put it there? To absorb the impact, right? Because if I'm going to heel strike, I'm going to need some sort of cushion to absorb that impact. No matter how much cushion you've got or air pocket you've got going on here, if I'm going to land in that heel, that impact is still coming up there. And how do you know when you need new shoes? This is what I ask people all the time. How do you know you need new shoes? They're like, oh, I can feel it. That cushy pad's not so cushy anymore, so I go buy another pair. That's interesting. You go buy another pair and you spend that money on the shoe, but you haven't changed how your foot is striking the ground. And that's what's the biggest impact contributor. Not if the shoe's doing its job. What about letting the body use its muscles and do the job it was made to do? So looking at the shoes people are wearing is important. And the shoe conversation is kind of a whole other discussion. The only other part I would say in here about the shoes is there is a big movement to more minimalist types of shoes. You can't just take a client who's been wearing this type of shoe and heel striking for years or their entire life and suddenly have them be barefoot or wearing a minimalist shoe. That's going to cause problems on its own. So we want to slowly transition people into strengthening their feet, strengthening their calf muscles, and having more of this mid-foot, forefoot strike, and strengthening those hip flexor muscles, their glute muscles, and their back and posture muscles so that they could be ready to move more into a barefoot or minimalist style shoe. They may or may not, but personally I find it extremely hard to walk and or run with good form if I've got a huge chunky heel on my shoe. And that's not just sneakers. So think of your female clients if they're wearing some sort of a dress shoe that has a heel, even like an inch heel. I'm not even thinking of stilettos or things like that. That's a whole other misalignment story, but just a little heel can make all the difference. It's hard to land in the correct spot. So I have clients take off their shoes and walk around. And first of all, they're like, well, I never work out barefoot. Well, why not? Working out barefoot is going to strengthen your feet and your feet. That's the first proprioception. That's how you get messages to your body about where you are in space. So in yoga classes, Pilates type classes, they've been having people work out without shoes for years. And those clients have great foot strength and great balance because they can feel where they are in space. And naturally, the muscles that help you have the arch in your foot are going to strengthen if you're barefoot. If I'm wearing a shoe all day long or a shoe when I'm working out, what does it also have? It also has arch support, right? Well, if I've got arch support, if I'm the muscles in the arch of my foot, well, I'm not going to come to work today. The arch in that shoe's doing all the work. I'll just relax. So got to work slowly to strengthen those muscles up and build that arch back into the foot. So educating your client on your foot strike, and hopefully when you turn this presentation off, you'll go walk around your house or the gym, wherever you might be, barefoot, and just walk naturally for a moment and look at yourself and see, are you heel striking? Are you mid-foot striking? Where are you at? but encouraging clients to slowly, not all at once, taking their shoes off at home and being barefoot, and practice landing into your forefoot. It means picking up your knees. At work and, you know, on the weekends, talking to people about their shoe choices. During activity, most gyms require us to wear some sort of an athletic shoe. So I wouldn't be saying, okay, everybody, time to take off your shoes at the gym. Trainer Abby told me so. But having a more minimalist shoe that lets your foot be itself is really, really important. And then workout programming, whenever you can, working with clients barefoot so they can start building up that strength in their foot, practicing balanced postures with your clients, and we'll talk more about those in a minute, and getting their calves engaged. Because remember, if we're landing into our forefoot, the calf muscle is contracted. If I'm landing into my heel, the calf muscle is stretched out. So most people walking around have stretched out weak calves. Make sense? So help bring to light what the foot strike feels like. And I know after practicing this for many years, if I strike into my heel, you can feel it. It feels wrong. It's a big strike up in through your heel, into the knee, into the hips, and into the back. So walking around, landing in that forefoot, and trying to engage the correct muscles. So you're engaging your calf muscles. And also, now you've got to get your clients to engage the muscles that work to lift the knee up. So the hip flexor series has to come into play, and other exercises that you do to reinforce that are going to be things you want to put into your routine. One thing I do to get people to practice landing into their forefoot is going to be to step and lift their knee up. Step and lift their knee up. It makes it easier to land in that forefoot area. Also, another great muscle recruitment exercise, especially to include in your warm-ups, would be having your client walk backwards. Or if you're doing running programs, running backwards. So what do you do when you're going backwards? You're naturally going to land in that forefoot, but also your butt muscle has to fire. So it's a great way to fire those glutes up and get them training. All right, so your homework for these clients, barefoot, and practice landing with good form. You can go out all day long and practice, or you can go out, all day long and not practice any of this and come into the gym for that 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week and practice it. But without that daily reinforcement, it's not going to make that much of a difference. You have a client, a current client. She is a heel striker. Used to do marathons, half marathons, triathlons. She was having extreme hip pain, and she was running through it. New shoes every couple of months. Whatever the new shoe that was out, she was trying it. Finally got her on this plan of strengthening her feet and landing softly in that forefoot. Her pain is gone. It doesn't necessarily have to do with your shoe, but your mechanics of how you work without the shoe, and then when you put the shoe on, how you're landing. Super important. So your exercise prescription, balance exercises, definitely want to be doing them barefoot. It's going to strengthen those muscles that create the arch in your foot. Working on unstable surfaces like your Bosu ball, your foam rollers, your half foam rollers, things like that, and getting people to walk around on unstable surfaces. So if you live near the beach, this is perfect. Get your clients out there walking on the beach, moving around in the sand, those unstable surfaces is perfect. Calf raises, incorporating your calf raises into other exercises. So think about that deadlift position. Deadlift on your toes. Start with no weight. See how that feels. Doing things like, you might come from a squat with an overhead press, raising up onto your toes. So integrating a little balance and calf raises into other exercises. The different drills that we talked about. So the walking drills, walking backwards. So every exercise you have the client perform, you want to encourage a good foot strike and a good foot strengthening stance. And if you start incorporating this for yourself, I think one of the first things you're going to find is how restrictive shoes feel when you work out with them on versus when you don't, and how much you want to take them off and let your foot be your foot. So pain, strain, and drain contributors. First one's going to be your shoes, because depending on the shoe, it can be really, really hard to have a correct foot strike. And remember, it's not just their foot strike when they're in the gym. It's when they're out of the gym, that other time that they're spending moving around. So next time you're out shopping, watch people's foot strike. Watch it in action and see how it looks. So looking towards a more minimalist shoe to let the foot be the foot. Ladies, that means getting rid of the heel. Other pain and strain and drain contributors would be unnatural movement patterns. The first one that comes to mind is we tend to put clients on a treadmill a lot, and we think, oh, it's a really, really good beginner place to start. It's really hard to step into your forefoot mid-stance on the treadmill because you automatically want to flex your foot, point your toe towards your nose to kind of clear the front stoop of the treadmill. So I encourage you to walk with new clients especially out and about on a track or outside and avoid the treadmill until you can get them foot striking correctly and comfortably on the treadmill. So watch the treadmill. Let's see, stairs are also a great way to practice this. You can walk up the stairs and land in your heel. You can walk up the stairs, land in that forefoot, and it's easy to contract your glutes and get kind of a 2-for-1 workout just working on your stairs. All right, time for poll question number 2.
All right, so the next poll question is going to be, consistent heel striking can lead to which of the following? Back pain, hip pain, knee pain, or all of the above? And while you guys are answering, there was another question. Somebody tried the walk around the room and said that it kind of feels like a trot, like when you're on a horse. Wouldn't that look weird to trying to switch your walk up that way?
It does look a little bit weird, especially as you first start it. Probably, and I think it looks weird too because we're exaggerating it as we start because it's very different than how we're used to walking. But if you watch and Google some videos on this too, watch a little kid walk, a baby, a toddler that's learning to walk. Watch how they really pick up their leg and place their foot down. They're naturally walking into their forefoot. And over time, what do? Oh, they need a pair of good shoes. We put them in a shoe, which makes you get that heel strike going on. As you do it more and more, you don't pick your leg up as high, and it won't look as much like a trot. But I see what you mean about feeling the trot. Practice it a bunch. As you practice it more and more, that trot and that big kind of gloppy stance goes away. But shoes, I totally agree with you. If I'm wearing shoes, I feel like I am trotting a little bit.
All right, so it looks like we have the results. We have 2% believe back pain, 2% believe hip pain, 2% believe knee pain, and 95% believe that it is all of the above when it comes to heel strikes. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Yeah, so it's definitely all of the above, right? It definitely contributes to each one of those pains because it all starts with impact coming into the foot. And we really could add to that list that landing into your heel creates heel pain. So what causes shin splints, or not shin splints, plantar fasciitis, stretching of the fascia of the foot muscles right there that create the arch, right? Well, if you're landing into a stretched calf, those muscles are stretched out too and they get inflamed. So we can add that foot into that pain area as well. But definitely practice the walking, and as you get better, you won't feel so much like you're lifting the legs so high and trotting around. And then as you work from walking, work it into your running routine. And again, you're not going to go all out. You know, if you're used to running 3 to 5 miles every other day, don't go all out and just run that 3 to 5 miles all on your toes. Your calves will talk to you for days to come. you got to gradually, cycle this in with a little circuit training. Super important. All right. So we're also, the last part today is educating our clients on other things that are holding them back in their routines. And the first one is repetitive. I should have put repetitiveness. But how often do you talk to a client who says something along the lines of, I don't understand, I was seeing results, I was doing so good, and I go to spin class, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, I do my weight training, why am I not seeing results? We have to remind clients that the body's very good at being adaptive. So even though they're consistent and they're repetitive, that repetitiveness, your body's already adapted to it, and they haven't been doing cross-training. So switching it up and mixing it up is super important, and kind of encouraging people that no variety and no overload in different exercise forms can lead to poor form, but it also leads to lack of results. So mixing up their routines, and I encourage clients just to, add in a day where you walk, so you're not thinking about necessarily days off, but a more moderate workout where you're getting some kind of posture correction, form correction, but I'm not overdoing it, kind of coming back to the basics. So helping clients with that cross-training is important, and incorporating some of these posture correction exercises and foot strike exercises in there, that's already going to cross-train them and mix them up a little bit there. But varying their workouts is also important. Checking on poor form, and then getting our clients to incorporate strength training. I think we all could probably raise our hands and have at least 5 clients we see regularly that the only time they do strength training is when they come see us because they don't want to do it on their own. So that's where the empowering them to strength train on their own, squeeze their butt and feel safe in the exercises, and teaching them the correct form really, really comes in. Other workouts that hold our clients back would be too much stretching of the wrong muscle groups. And so these are a lot of the yoga people that we see out there. And I say yoga people, I'm one of those yoga people too. I love yoga. But I don't love yoga when we spend so much time stretching the butt, the hips, and the upper and lower back. We don't need to do that. We do that all day long. I want to strengthen those areas and stretch the front of the body. So helping our clients stretch the front, straighten the back, and if you're out there teaching classes, this is a big one for you to focus on too. Getting rid of too much forward folding and trying to stand up. One thing we forgot to mention in the beginning with work is encouraging your clients to move towards a stand-up desk. And even if they don't want to do a stand-up desk the entire day, incorporating portions of the day where they are standing for periods of time. Do they need to buy a special desk? No, get some books and prop everything up and stand up for a little while. It really, really helps. And then getting our clients out of seated workouts. And some of the seated workouts, you can look more at our senior population chair workouts. Those people even more need to get up and stand up. So trying to incorporate standing exercises for those seated chair type workouts is really, really important. Getting people off the recumbent bike or a bike, standing up and moving around is going to be really, really key to changing those habits. Also think about if you're using equipment in the gym like a bike or the treadmill, you're not having to work to propel your body forward. So your muscles aren't working as hard as they would be as if I was riding a bike outside. And if I'm riding a bike outside, I've also got to work on balance and maybe a little hill here or hill there. So it's naturally making you work harder versus the bike is a more unnatural movement pattern, but you're also not working as hard. Same thing with the treadmill. I'm not burning as many calories with the treadmill because the treadmill is propelling me a little bit. I'm not having to use my muscles to propel myself forward. So some things to think about, educating our clients about, and doing a little bit more research on. And here are some examples of some poor form. And I know that none of our clients, when they work out with us, have this poor form. But as you're in the gym the next few days, take a look around and kind of watch and think about what cues you'd give this guy if you were working with him to get him from this sort of a looking lunge to this sort of a looking lunge. And if you've got a new client that's coming in who hasn't worked out, or maybe they do work out but they sit a lot, it's going to be hard to be in this big stretched position to get the good form of a lunge. So kind of keep that in mind. And then this exercise down here, the Russian twist. How many times do you look out in the crowd and see those hunched over shoulders in the twist? So we want to keep shoulders and hips in a line and have a nice core active, shoulders, back muscles active, and the twist is coming from the torso, not the shoulders. Deadlift positioning, huge. How often we look out and see that arched back. You should keep the natural curve in your back as we move through the ranges of motion in our exercises. And here, this guy, we talked about text neck. This guy's kind of going the opposite direction, right? We want to keep the neck nice and neutral. So we're not looking down, we're not looking up, we're keeping it all in a line. So having someone use this deadlift, no weight, as they start, and just feel what it feels like to stand up and squeeze your butt to get yourself standing up. And I encourage you guys to try that as well. New Beginnings programs look at our daily activity, incorporate regular strength training that focuses on our posture, takes into consideration your foot strike, forefoot toe area, using a variety of activities to get in our activity or get in our exercise routines, and overloading the muscles. So a lot of times people stop at, I tell a client, okay, we're going to do about 12 repetitions of the deadlift. Okay, I did 12. Was it hard towards the end? No, it was okay. I felt like I could do more. Have your client keep doing more. Don't worry about giving them new weights, making it harder next time. You're already in the position doing the exercise. Keep going. Have it so that it's hard towards the end. On the opposite end of that, though, if you've got a new client who's complaining of some low back or hip pain and this is your first few sessions, they're the ones you're not going to quite overload yet. Okay, next time we'll do some more and get them to be a little harder. Let's see how you feel tomorrow. So using that overload principle with your advanced clients versus your new clients a little bit differently, but still making sure you use it, because if we don't overload, we're not going to see the change. We're not going to see the results. And that overload is what comes into play after your time with a trainer, after your time in the gym. You've got to completely keep those muscles in their alignment. And progressing clients when they've mastered the basics and they're practicing them on their own. So some clients I've had them for a year. We're pretty much still working on the basic exercises because they're not incorporating it into their day-to-day. There's not much other place we can go without, we could, but they're most likely going to get hurt if they haven't been able to recruit their butt muscles, keep their posture well, shoulders back and down, and work on standing and striking into their forefoot more. So really working on those basics first. So I created some workout steps here that you could do with a new client, or and this goes with if you already got a current client that you want to change it up a little bit. Your first basic workout that you would do with them in this order is watch your client walk and assess their foot strike. And then you've got to talk to them about their foot strike and have them walk the correct way and see what that feels like. So you might be doing some high knees, some walking backwards. Then you're going to have a client sit down and stand up. Sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up. And ask them where they feel things. Oh man, my knees kind of hurt. I don't know, my lower back bothers me a little bit. And watch their posture as they're sitting down and standing up. Are they arching their shoulders, tucking forward, tucking their pelvis? All right, now I want you to sit down, but before you stand up, I want you to pinch your butt, squeeze your butt cheeks together, and now stand up. Okay, do that again. Do that again. How does it feel? Any change? 9 times out of 10, they have no knee pain, and their back feels better because they're recruiting the correct muscles to go and do the movement. If you have older clients or clients that are nurses or caretakers, or maybe you take care of someone who's bed-bound or sits a lot and has trouble standing up on their own, the first cue you should be giving them before you help them stand up is squeeze your butt. Let their muscles come to work for them. The modified deadlift, so this here without weight. So a little bend in the knees, hinging right at the hip. As you're coming to stand up, you're engaging those glute muscles to get there. Hamstrings are automatically helping. Bridges, that's when we're lying down, squeezing your butt, lifting your hips up towards the sky. The Superman, opposite arm of whatever leg is lifted when you're in the quadruped position, squeezing your butt. Lat pull downs, rows, and calf raises. By the time you've had a client do all these exercises and educated them on why you're doing them and recruiting the correct muscles, you're going to take up a good 50 minutes. So you're almost to your hour and then reviewing anything you need to review. As a client masters these, the next progression, kind of think the same exercises, but now how do I take them to a different level? You're going to start out with your walking drills. You don't need to watch the client walk, so to speak, anymore, but now they might turn into more running drills, high knees, running backwards, quick feet. You might use the agility ladder with them. And number two, going to work on the stork stance or warrior three position. So this is standing on one foot and hinging at the hip, working on balance, keeping the butt engaged and hips level. Doing the deadlift position, still no weight, up on your toes. You really check your feet and your calves there. Working on squats. You may have already worked on squats, but instead of going from sitting to standing, now you're just progressing to a regular squat position. Lat pull downs and rows on one leg or with a squat. Bridges using the foam roller under the feet, or maybe the stability ball. Back extensions and one-legged calf raises or calf raises on an unstable surface. And then the next progression from there just is going to use other tools to make it even more challenging. So you've got the same workout, but so many different ways you can progress your client using all those same principles. They're not going to get bored, and they're going to get stronger, and they're going to heal their own pains, aches and pains that they've got going on, as long as they're incorporating all this into their day-to-day. And if anybody has any questions about any of the exercises, I should have tried to incorporate more pictures. There's not a lot of pictures on some of the stuff that uses one leg or rising up onto your toes, so feel free to email me and we'll talk about them. Does anybody have any questions? There was a question,
Abby, from Hannah. She said, correct her if she was wrong, but she thought you were supposed to drive your weight through your heels while doing things like squats, deadlifts, etc. And then also the step up. She thought you were supposed to get your whole foot on the step and drive your weight through your heel.
Right. So you're driving your weight through your heels for those exercises, but you can really simply go through a lot of exercises that are really hard with a ton of weight on them and not recruit your glute muscles. We're really good at skipping that, and it's hard to do because it's way easier to not use that big muscle because it's so relaxed from sitting all the time. When you're going up the stairs, it's hard. You want to put your forefoot on the stairs, still squeezing your butt to stand up. It's hard to get your whole foot up on a stair, and you don't want a heel strike. So I don't know if that's what made it a little bit confusing. So versus squats and step-ups, some of the cues and things you want to think about. Yes, driving through your heels is fine, but you want to be squeezing your butt and engaging your glutes to lift your body up. When you're doing step-ups with people, that's fine. Foot's up on the step, knee over ankle, as I'm standing up. Yeah, you're going to be driving through the foot, but you want to be pushing into the whole foot, right? Because your toes are what come through and help you balance. It's a little bit of a different exercise once you've got the shoes off and you're still squeezing your butt to stand up. When you're having someone go up and down the stairs, like you're running up the stairs right now to go pick up the telephone or whatever, you're going to be landing more into your forefoot because that's impact as you're going up and down.
All right, and there's a question from Tony. He wanted to know, should trainers also concentrate on core exercises to help strengthen the back?
Yes, for sure. But look at some of the traditional core exercises and immediately throw them out the window. So we didn't have really time to discuss this, but you know, a lot of traditional core exercises, what do? You're rounding and you're arching your back to try to engage your core muscles. And just sit there right now and do that a few times. Well, that's great. That's not really the action of the core muscles. The core muscles were made to be stabilizers. So trying to incorporate exercises with your clients where they're doing a lot of stabilizing with their core versus doing traditional crunches. Because that forward and back, flexion, extension of the spine, we know that that's not good for our spine. And we know that our clients are already sitting in that rounded, hunched forward position a lot during the day. So planks and variations on planks, you know, when you're doing a deadlift, your core has got to be engaged. When you're doing a lat pull down, core should be engaged as well. Bridges, things like the Russian twist is a great one to have people do because they're more of in a stabilizing position rather than that crunching position. I'm also thinking of like the dead bug exercise where you're laying on your back. You keep the natural curve in the lower back, but you're engaging the core like you're getting ready for a punch, and you drop one leg towards the floor and the opposite arm goes to the floor behind you. So incorporating some things like that, definitely super important.
All right. There's another question. Hannah said she was taught to be able to wiggle her toes at the bottom of all of those exercises by having all the weight through the heels. So it is, or she's happy that she joined today. Now, what about those people who naturally walk heel to toe, which I know I do because that's what's comfortable. And necessarily like where to find more to kind of read up on the change of foot strike.
Sure. Just to go back to Hannah's thought about wiggling your toes, yes, and I don't disagree with that statement at all. You still want to, you know, you don't want to be leaning all your weight into your toes when you're having someone do a squat or doing a step up. You're pushing more into the heel and the center of the foot. Try all these things barefoot. That's what I really encourage you guys to go out to do and see how different it feels. And you're really going to be using those muscles that surround your ankle joint and your foot joint much more in a much different way. And then put your shoes on and try it with shoes on and just feel how different it is. And then think about being a new exerciser, someone who's never exercised before, and how are they going to feel safest when they can really feel what's going on? Super important. Also trying the squat exercise hanging onto a bar where you can really sit the butt back towards a chair or a bench, and Hannah, you'll feel you're able to push into your heels and into your forefoot, but you can lift your toes up and wiggle them around. Looking for shoes and how to incorporate that, you're just going to look for a shoe that lets your foot be your foot. And I don't want to use any name brands because I don't necessarily endorse any type of shoe, but next time you're out, you know, go to the sneaker store, go to a big shoe store, and just start picking up shoes. And you want to be able to bend them, right? Your foot moves and changes shape all the time when you're walking around. So pick up the shoe, bend it in half, twist it, see how it moves. Ladies' shoes want to avoid heels. Men's dress shoes now have a little kind of heel in the back, and they're usually pretty stiff. That can be really hard on your foot to be confined through all day. When you're looking at sneakers, same thing. If you look at those sneakers that have a big, chunky heel on them where that air pocket is, pick those up and try to fold those in half and twist them. They don't do a lot of moving. That's a stiff shoe. That's hard to balance on a stiff shoe. Think about some of the orthotic type shoes that older adults wear. If you're out and about or you have access to someone who has those shoes, pick those suckers up. They're like lead weight. No wonder people lose their balance in them. It's hard to let your foot be your foot and feel where you are in space. So looking for minimalist type shoes. And there are some out there, and there are some really good versions out there that you can get. And there are some that are trying to be minimal issues, but when you pick them up and actually look at the amount of padding and arching that they have in them, you'll look at them and go, okay, I see what you mean. They aren't such a good choice. But again, don't jump into them like, don't go out tomorrow and you're barefoot all day and you're working out barefoot and your toes, 4-foot striking and you're all into it, because you will be very sore. You're going to recruit muscles you haven't recruited in a while. So ease into it completely.
All right, so we are a little bit run over. Did you do a slide, Abby, that they can possibly reach out to you if they have any questions?
Yes, that's my email, and abby.eastman@gmail. So please feel free to email me and be in touch. And if you have a routine you want to run through, if you think it's good, we could talk about it. I'm sure there's other trainers out there. We could talk about it on the World Instructor Training School's Facebook page. Just some ways we're trying to get clients to work on their posture and their foot strike and changes that you see.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for spending some time with us today. You guys will all be receiving a copy of the recording of the webinar, which will have the same PowerPoint presentation videoed displayed like this, as well as the CEC quiz. It'll come 2 hours after the presentation ends. It'll go to your email directly from GoTo, so just be sure to check your junk folder or any of that, just in case it goes in there, because I cannot resend them once they're sent out, so just be looking out for them. And then you will have until 8 a.m. on Monday morning to do the 10-question quiz. It'll just take a few moments for you to complete that and get your CEC. Once we do grade the exams on Monday, it takes about 14 to 21 days for you to get your certificate of completion. So if you do your exam on Friday, you still may not be notified for at least a week or two if you passed with your completion sheet. So at this end, I am going to go ahead and let Abby lead us out.
All right, I hope you guys learned some new ways to start off with clients and lead them into their new beginnings. And please, if you have questions, send me an email and we can talk about them. And I look forward to hearing from you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.